a gambling scandal that appears to be happening with Iowa State. So, why does this affect Tennessee? I want to get into that. Let me give you a little bit of background for those of you that are younger and not seedy. So the thing that you have to know about Knoxville that a lot of people don't. Before gambling was well, gambling's always been illegal, but before it became legal, Knoxville was known as a gambling hotbed. There were all kinds of poker rooms. I know a friend that ran one. It was known as every other corner. There's a secret poker room that starts about midnight and lasts till 5 a.m. So Knoxville was known. Gambling slips were everywhere. I played my first parlay when I was 20 years old. So Knoxville is known for that. So, Caleb, I don't know if you have statistics to that, but Tennessee is one of the highest gambling states in the union. You can tell when Tennessee's number gets moved. A lot of times it'll come out. People will bet so highly on Tennessee that it'll move the number. So this is scary. I think for Tennessee more than a lot of other schools. And now we've seen it with Alabama baseball. Alabama is also known as one of the schools that'll move the number because of their gambling. So here's the thing that's scary about gambling being legal is that I almost guarantee you that one player's already been approached at several SEC schools. So tell me about what's happening at Iowa State and why Tennessee fans should keep an eye on that. And I think you should also keep an eye on the Alabama baseball situation. We're going to have a special guest from Alabama to talk about that situation tomorrow. We've got that lined up. But I don't think that one's done either. And I think Tennessee, more than a lot of other schools, needs to be concerned about the easy access to gambling, Caleb. So what's going on at Iowa State?
So it's Iowa and Iowa State, both schools. So Iowa, let's start with them. They've received information on 111 individuals in total, including 26 current student athletes from the baseball, men's track and field, wrestling, and yes, football and men's basketball programs, along with the full-time employee in the athletics department who were involved in illicit gambling activities. Iowa State has 15 student athletes across all sports, which also includes football, that are being suspected of wagering allegations that go against NCAA rules. I believe Iowa was like Tennessee, one of the earliest states to get involved in the sports gambling revolution that happened after the Supreme Court overturned it a few years ago. It was like Tennessee, New Jersey, and Iowa, like right off the bat. And so we're talking over 40 athletes alone at two different schools that includes players on the football teams who have been suspected or suspended due to gambling, due to illicit wagers not allowed by the NCAA. If that's happening in Iowa, it can easily happen at Tennessee, where, like you said, sports gambling is much, much more widespread and is a big problem. It's funny you bring that up with Knoxville. I got a little history on my own. Memphis at the turn of the 20th century, in like 1900, about 1910. You've been to the Liberty Bowl, right?
Unfortunately.
So right over there used to be these fairgrounds and this little amusement park, but there's this Coliseum, and right across the street there was this grassy patch. That used to be the site of the most popular horse racing event in the nation. It was the Tennessee Derby. It competed with the Kentucky Derby until Tennessee outlawed sports gambling. And it obviously killed the Tennessee Derby, and it doesn't exist anymore. And they tore down the horse racing track. But for a century, there has been a thirst for sports gambling in Tennessee. It's a big part. It was a big part of the state culture until it was outlawed. It's probably why they outlawed it, because maybe Tennessee was one of the states where they took it a little bit too far. And so I'm thinking you're right. Now in Tennessee, it's a real issue. Tennessee's got three professional major league sports teams. They might get a fourth soon in baseball. They got a pretty famous NASCAR track just an hour and a half east of Knoxville. NASCAR is about to embrace gambling to try to help themselves get a little more popular.
Mm-hmm.
This is all over the state.
No, I mean, this is a big thing. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, within 3 to 5 years, it might be Alabama. I mean, this might get bigger. Don't forget Calvin Ridley was also involved with gambling. He played at Alabama. Now you got the baseball program. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, somebody's going to get the SMU death penalty from this. They're going to make an example out of someone. Okay, and it might be Iowa State. I don't know, but I've mentioned this before. The NCAA hired 40 more people in their enforcement office. I think they had about 12. Okay, so this is this is not just expanding the department. This is exploding the department. What are they going to police? You can't police tampering with social media. If somebody wants to reach out to Nico and say, "Hey, you're not going to play there because Joe Milton, come on over," there's no way you can find that out. There's also, I don't know how in the world you could police payments now, because anybody that has any intelligence whatsoever knows that it's legal. You just got to make sure that you're doing it right. It's basically like having the right tag on the back of your car. But the thing that the NCAA is going to hammer somebody on, you just wait, is going to be gambling. Because I'll go ahead and tell you here how I feel about gambling. You and I actually agree on Pete Rose, which is rare, because everybody seems like he should be in the Hall of Fame and that he shouldn't have been punished so harshly. But listen, I can watch Naked and Afraid reality television. I don't want to watch that, because I believe that reality television is absolutely the least real television on the planet. It's all scripted. It's all BS. And if I find out that my favorite sport, and my favorite sports are college football, the NFL, the NBA, are my top 3, I'm done. I'm not watching that sport. I'm not interested anymore, because I like the idea that you don't know what's going to happen. And if I think that somebody is pulling strings, I'm out. I'm done. So you just cannot do that, Caleb. That's what makes sports programming so special. I'm sure there are some that are listening that like WWE and professional wrestling. That's fine. You can like it. Just, that's a show. I don't want to watch a show, Caleb, period.
Yeah, you want to watch the best of competition. This is the idea of what we as society embraces competition in certain moments. And we, particularly professional sports, is a way to get the best athletes, the best skill people in their respective field to compete against each other in an honest way. And we all love seeing it. And you're right, Dave, I know you don't like it, but this has to be something that Congress has to address, right? Like, because it can affect it. I mean, I know everybody's like, Congress, you get out of the entertainment business. They got bigger things. This is a big thing. You know how many jobs are dependent in sports and gambling, and how many could be jeopardized by people placing illicit bets that compromises the integrity of the sport?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. I'm telling you, somebody's going to get hammered, and they might try to find an SMU, a smaller school that doesn't have as big of an impact. But if this stuff at Alabama or Iowa blows up, then you might have to make them the example. You don't want to make Alabama the example. And as far as wrestling, ask if I don't like wrestling. I don't dislike wrestling. I just don't have enough time to add anything else to my plate. Yeah. And then Mr. Jones said, "It's still real to me." What is that from? What movie is that from? It's still real to me, damn it.
I have no idea.
Help me, Mr. Jones, because I'm actually loading up drops today, so I might use that one.
I mean, this is the problem. We had sports gambling illegal everywhere outside of Vegas for 100 years, and the federal government fought the idea of making it legal everywhere, and now it's legal, and they're caught with, way behind the 8 ball, because it's getting legalized in all these states, and they have no uniform policy to address who can gamble and what can gamble. And I mean, in the stock market, Dave, you're not allowed to make investments in the stock market if you have insider information on what's going to happen with that stock. How in the world are you allowed to legally gamble on a sport you play? How is that not the same thing?
I'm with you. That it's It's not good. And you can bet on your own. You can bet for your team. You can do all that stuff. And I remember that it's real to me. I was a dude sitting up in the stands talking about wrestling. That was pretty funny. That's going to be a drop later today. So tomorrow on the program, we'll be joined by a very special guest because I do want to dig into this a little bit more. And because I'm not sure that this is done for Alabama fans that tune in. I hope for your sake that it's done, but I'm not sure. So Drew D'Armond will join us tomorrow. He covers Alabama, and I look forward to that because this Alabama thing and this Iowa thing, it's got legs, kids. I told you that last week when stuff has continued to come out. And so far, Alabama's stance on it has been to leak information to like Andy Staples, who I like a lot, but to leak information that no players were involved. Why don't you come out with a statement that says no players involved? There's two very different ways of handling that. One of them, you feel more secure in your stance. Because right now, you leak it to media and they take the hit. Okay?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. If you come out and make a stance and you're like athletic director, Alabama, Iowa, or whoever, you lied. And
exactly.
you don't want to be that dude.
And let's also, before we get out of here, be very clear because a lot of people will say, refs fix games. And yes, there's been the Tim Donaghy incident in the NBA. Does the NFL call things more favorably in certain situations? Yes. That's not okay. It's not the same as completely scripting something.